Okay, let's move to the other question. Write down the question. This is motion of an off circle. Motion on an off center circle. The center is not on the origin but somewhere else. Okay. Write down the question. A particle moves with constant speed. With constant speed v, that is around a circle of radius b. So b is the radius of circle with the circle offset from the origin of coordinates by distance, the same distance b, that is the radius of the circle. So it's quite obvious that the axis will be tangent, y axis. So it is tangent to y axis. So we have to find its velocity. Find the particle's velocity. In polar coordinates. So let us draw the diagram according to the question, what the question is saying. So we are writing the solution here. Let us draw I think this is our coordinate axis, and circle is like this. Yes. And this is its center, and this is what? Tangent to the circle. And this is B, and this is B also. Radius of the circle is given. Okay. Let's suppose particle is at this point at any interval of time. Right. So this is B. This will be also B because it is radius. So let us assume that the particle is here and it should be moving in its tangential direction. So its velocity will be like this v. And we need to find its velocity in r theta coordinate, that is polar coordinate. So this will be the direction of r vector, and this will be the direction of theta vector, and both of them will be perpendicular to each other. So now let us assume this angle to be theta. So it will become theta also because it's an isosceles triangle. You can see that this is theta, this is 90 minus theta, then it will become theta also. Theta, theta, this will become 2 theta. Exterior angle property. So I am just solving this question. You need to write all of the thing when you're writing your paper, right? I think this is easy geometry to see. So now we can write velocity in r and theta coordinate, just make the component of this velocity. So it will be minus v sine theta r cap plus v cos theta theta cap. So this is the velocity which we have to find. So we are given with v, but we don't know the theta. So we have to find out this theta. So here 2 theta is given. Here 2 theta is given, and we also know is that 2 theta is equals to omega t. Why it's equal to omega t? Because this is the angular displacement, this is the angular velocity. So in time t, we can write that 2 theta equals to this. Also, what is omega? Omega will be 2 theta by t here. So you can write any of the way. Also, it is mentioned that its radius is b and its velocity is v. So we also know that omega equals to v by b. Just substitute all these things and we need to find the theta. So theta will be what? Omega t by 2, and omega is what? V by b. So this will be vt by 2b. So here is our answer, minus v sine theta. Theta just we have to substitute vt by 2b r cap plus v cos theta, and theta is what? Vt by 2b theta cap. What I'm trying to tell you that if you are using polar coordinate system in curve motion, it will be very easy to find out its velocity, acceleration, and position. Okay, let's move to the another question. And this is radial motion without acceleration. I'm trying to cover each and every dimension of your syllabus, wherever a question may came from, right? Write down the question. Also, when I write the question, you should pause the video and first try yourself. Then only you should see the solution. A particle moves with theta dot, that is equals to omega is given here, and that is constant, and r is given as r naught e to the power beta t. Okay, where r naught and beta are constant. We shall show that for certain value of beta, the particle moves with AR equals to 0. That is, radial acceleration is 0. Try. Don't look at the solution before trying. You should try first, then look at the solution. So, what we know that? So, we know that this is r theta, and these all are in the curvilinear motion. So we simply know the acceleration in polar coordinate, and just where I'm quoting this, that is r double dot r theta dot whole square. This is not, no, r theta dot r cap plus r theta double dot plus 2r theta dot theta cap. So we know this relation. We just need to substitute the value of r and r double dot. So we can easily write that r double dot, you know, the differentiation of e to the power ax, for example. I hope you know that d e to the power ax upon dx is what? A into e to the power ax, right? So if you use this, you can easily get this result. This will become beta square r naught e to the power beta t minus this r theta dot square r naught beta t, and theta dot is given omega square r cap plus this is what r double theta dot, that is r omega square. This will be 0 because theta dot is omega and that is constant. So this term will become 0 for us, and for this we can write that 2 into r dot is what? B naught b r naught e to the power beta t, and theta dot is what? Omega. So this will be our tangential term. Okay. So if we see this radial term only, okay, and try to make it 0. So what we will get? Beta square r naught e to the power beta t is equals to r naught e to the power beta t omega square. So from here we can easily write that beta equals to plus minus omega. So we are getting a value of beta, that is plus minus omega, for which its radial acceleration will vanish. And you can see this r equals to r naught e to the power beta t, where the particles moves with zero radial acceleration. What we are trying to say that if beta is equals to plus minus omega, it will move with what? Zero radial acceleration. Okay. One thing also you should clear about that this component is only due to the radial component. R varies. Here theta also varies. So radial component of the acceleration is combination of both when we change the R also and when we change the theta also. So you should be clear in these things. This was a very easy problem. Okay. Now let us take one more problem. And this is good. We call it firing particle. The one we saw in our very first example as Archimedean spiral. So we are given with some data. We just need to fill these data. A particle moves outward along a spiral, the spiral that we have discussed already. Its trajectory is given by r equals to a theta, where a equals to 1 by pi meter rad, and it is what? It's a constant. Theta increases with time. A is constant, but theta increases with time according to theta equals to alpha t square by 2. where alpha is constant. Where alpha is constant, we can write this. Okay. So we have to find first its velocity and acceleration. Also, we need to prove that radial acceleration is zero. When it is zero? When theta equals to 1 by root 2 radian. And also, we need to find out at what angle do they radial and tangential accelerations have equal magnitude. Okay. So why we are discussing or practicing so many problems, so that you should become familiar with these terms and these equations. So we know that some of the things, that is r is what? A theta. R is what given? This is given as a theta, and a is what? 1 by pi. So we can write is that theta by pi. Also, what we know, that theta is equals to what? Alpha t square by 2. So combining these, putting the value of theta here, we can write that r equals to alpha t square by 2. Okay. Just we need to get something, that r dot is what? Alpha t by pi. Also, theta dot is what? Just differentiate, because we have to put these value in our velocity and acceleration terms. See, this is very easy to see. Alpha by pi. Always remember, this is the Newtonian notation we are using for differentiating with respect to time derivative only. And here theta double dot equals to alpha. You can easily substitute their value. What is V? So V, we know that there is r theta dot theta cap plus r dot r cap. What is the value? Put this value. So it will become alpha t by pi r dot r cap plus alpha square t cube by 2 pi theta cap. We just need to put these values. We have given this set of values, value of r theta, that is r. From we have given the equations of r and theta, from where we have derived r dot, then theta dot, r double dot, theta double dot, and just we need to put this value. What is a? I think you're able to remember these things. R theta dot whole square r cap plus r double theta plus 2 theta dot r dot theta cap. Just put these values. R double dot, that is alpha by pi, minus alpha cube t4 upon 2 pi r cap. R double theta dot, r is given this. So what we can write? R is alpha t square, theta double dot is alpha square. So alpha square t square, and this term alpha square t square by 4. So it will comes out to be 5 alpha square t square upon 2 pi theta cap. You can easily add these two values. Okay. So we are able to find the first part, that is velocity and acceleration. Next part, what we need to do is to place AR equals to 0. And what is AR here? We can write as alpha. This is the AR value. See, so if we put it as value, it will become alpha cube T4 upon 2 pi pi pi. This becomes square. So here we can write that T, from here we can write out T square is equals to root 2 by alpha. So we need theta. So theta T will be equals to alpha T square by 2, which turn out to be 1 by root 2 radian. You can check it easily. Okay. Third part is we have to equate their magnitude. AR equals to A theta. And you can do it easily. Okay. And I will set it as homework for you. Just a simple calculation. If you are unable to understand this, you can ask me also. So see there. This is alpha R and this is alpha T. You need to what? Alpha theta, sorry. You need to just equate their magnitude. So I think you can do it easily. The main purpose is that how can we apply our formula in certain situations. Okay. Again, let's take a question. That is projectile in polar coordinate. So the path of projectile is defined by the equation, and that equation is R equals to 3t minus t square by 30 and theta square equals to 1600 minus t square. So these are the relation. What you need to find? You have to find its velocity and acceleration after 30 seconds. This is a very straightforward question. And you can expect these type of questions easily. So what is, we are given with R, that is 3t minus t square by 30. And here I am writing theta. Wait. Sorry. We are given is R, so we can easily write the R dot that equals to 3 minus t by 15. And we also need to find R double dot for our acceleration, that equals to minus 1 by 15. That's it. So we are done with this R part. So now let's come to the values. So if we put the values R at 30, or it's better to write like this way, at t equals to 30 second, R will be equals to 60 meter. R dot will be equal to 1 meter per second. These are very easy to find. And this is already 1 by minus 15 meter per second square. So we have written with our values. Next, what we want the relation of theta. So theta square is given 1600 minus t square. Let's differentiate it. So we'll get 2 theta theta dot equals to minus 2t. Minus 2t. So from here we can write that theta dot is equals to minus t by theta. Also, using differentiation, we can also write that theta double dot will be equals to t theta square theta dot minus 1 by theta. Okay. So use a calculator to find at these values. So at t equals to 30 seconds, we need their values. So theta will be what? 10 root 7 radian. I have already these values with us. Theta dot equals to minus 3 by root 7. You also cross check these values. Minus 16 70 root 7 radian second. So the moral of the whole story is that we are given with the functions of r and theta. If we are given with the functions of r and theta, we can write theta, theta dot, r double dot, and theta double dot. If we are able to find these values, we have to only substitute these values in our velocity. So what is the velocity here? Just substitute these terms and you will find that velocity will be r cap minus 180 by root 7 theta cap, and a will be finally, just I am writing the answers. You need to calculate all the things. 105 r cap plus 138 7 root 7 theta cap. More of the story is, if we are given with the functions of r and theta, we can easily differentiate it with time and find out r theta, r dot, theta dot. Again, differentiating twice with time, we get r double dot and theta double dot. And we simply have to put this in V and isolation relationship. Okay. Now, come to the next question, and this is very important because in this question, we will convert Cartesian to polar. Just try to solve this. Here given a point moving in a plane has coordinate x equals to 3 and y equals to 4 and has component of speed, that is x dot equals to 5 meter per second and y dot equals to 8 meter per second. That is velocity in x direction, and this is the velocity in y direction at some instant of time. So what we need to find? We need to find the component of speed in polar coordinate. Try this question. What is the component in polar coordinate? We need to find r cap and theta cap. That is VR and V theta. We need to find VR and V theta in directions of r cap and theta cap direction. Try this. So let's start doing this. So assuming this as our coordinate axis. This is x axis, this is y axis, and this is point r vector and theta. If you write this in r vector, r and theta, it will become polar coordinate, or else this is x I cap and this is y j cap direction. So from here we can easily write that x equals to what? R cos theta, and y equals to r sin theta, basic trigonometry. If we differentiate this x dot, what will we get? R dot cos theta minus r sin theta theta dot. Okay, so this will we get when we differentiate x. When we differentiate y, we will get r dot sin theta plus r bahar cos theta theta dot. You may get a question on this to prove this also. So we are also deriving this. Okay, so just concentrate how we are deriving from a Cartesian coordinate to polar coordinate system. So it's very easy, but you need to have a look on this. So let's suppose this as first and this as second equation. So we need to find r dot, right? So what we can do this, we can multiply 1 by cos theta, this by cos theta, because this become cos square theta, this will become sin square theta when we multiply this by sin, and wait, 2 by sin theta. So what we will get? R dot cos square theta here and r dot sin square theta there, and here r sin theta cos theta, here also r cos the sin theta, and add them. So what will we get if we do this? So we will get here, when we multiply this by cos theta and this by sin theta. So here we will left with, wait, I have to write here only, x dot cos theta plus here we will left with y dot sin theta. Also cos square r dot cos square theta plus r dot sin square theta will become r dot only, and these term will be cancelled out because r sin theta cos theta, here also r sin theta cos theta, here minus sign is there, so this will be cut. Okay, now so here we can also write it as x dot, and we can use the value of cos theta. Cos theta is what? Cos theta is basically x upon root under x square plus y square, and sin theta is what? Y upon root under x square plus y square, r, you can say that. So it will become x dot x plus y dot y, because we are given with x dot and y, so we need to write these things in that term only, x square plus y square. So this is the relation from where we can get this. So we need velocity, so we need r dot and theta dot, right? Okay, for theta dot, what we can do is that we want theta dot, right? So we have to make this term sin square and this term cos square, and also we need to subtract this so that both will become r square, r sin square theta and r cos square theta term. So what we can do, we can multiply 1 by sin theta and 2 by cos theta, and subtracting 1 from 2. What we will get? Just see this. So we are multiplying first one with sine theta and second one with cos theta and subtracting 2 from 1. So we will left with this thing, y dot cos theta. The second equation will become minus x dot sine theta. The first term of both will cancel out and this will become r theta dot. And we know that r value is what? X square plus y square under root. So theta will become, this is value of x, y dot x minus x dot y upon root under x square plus y square, and this is also what? Root under x square plus y square, so it will become x square plus y square. This is theta dot. So we are given with x, y, x double dot, sorry, x dot and y dot, and we need to acquire vr and v theta. We can easily get it from there because we know that v is what? V is r theta r cap plus r theta dot theta cap. So you can easily substitute its value there, and what will become? V will become x dot x, y dot y upon root under x square plus y square r cap plus y dot x minus x dot y upon root under x square plus y square, because r is there also, theta cap. Okay, you can easily put the value of x and x dot theta, and I have the answer. We will get vr, this is what? Vr, and it will come out 9.4 meter per second. So you need to check these values, and v theta will become 0.8 meter per second. So you need to check this value clearly. Okay. Next, we have to prove. What we have to prove? V equals to omega cross r. So this is the question mainly, right? So write down the statement, show that in case of a rigid body, we are not dealing with the rigid body, extended rigid body here. We are dealing with the point rigid body only, right? Spinning about, sorry, not a point rigid body, but we will consider this as a point and we will solve the equation. We will not look into the matters of rigid body here. The linear velocity of particle is the cross product. So again, this is an expected question. It may come in your exam. Product of angular velocity and the position vector. Relative to a fixed point on the axis. Relative to a fixed point on the axis. So let's start with the solution. What is question trying to say? Let's see this. Suppose this is the axis, not the tilted one, but consider it as a straight line. Okay, and the particle is somewhere here and it is moving around this with omega, and here from we are observing, this is our observation point. Observer is here. So what, this will be our r vector, and this is what r, if this is theta, this will be turn out r perpendicular. And what is r perpendicular? It will be r sine theta. So we need to write its velocity. So how can we write this velocity? Because velocity is a circular, so it will have only tangential component, that will be r perpendicular, because this is the radius of the circle in which it is moving, theta dot theta cap. So it will become r sine theta, r perpendicular, and theta dot will is what? Omega theta cap. So we are left with these things, r omega sine theta theta cap. Now here we need to see one thing. What one thing? Using right hand thumb rule. Right hand thumb rule of cross product, we have to see this vector. This is the r vector, okay, and this is the omega vector, and tangentially is v vector. What I'm trying to say, just have a look here. If it is moving in a circular motion, and this is outward direction, is omega vector, and this is v, and this is r. So using right hand thumb rule, we can easily conclude from here this r omega sine theta gives us two possibility. R omega sine theta gives us two possibility, that it can be this or it can be this. But using right hand thumb rule, these vectors orient themselves as that we are getting this result, that is v equals to omega cross r. So we can write that v equals to omega cross. So I think it's very easy to see. Now let's do one last problem on this topic, that is body spinning. The purpose of this question is only to introduce you with the, what you say, cross product. So here it is given a rigid body and spinning with an, sorry, angular velocity of 4 radian per second about an axis parallel to 3j minus k cap passing through the point, that is I cap k cap find the velocity of the particle at the point 4I cap minus 2j plus k cap. One thing I forgot to tell, that it is valid for any point on the axis. Right? We also have derived in that way also, but you should remember that if it is the axis, so any point on this axis will satisfy this relation. Now, we are here with a very easy problem. So we just need to find out what velocity, and we already had v equals to omega cross r. Okay. So using the given data, we can write that omega is what? Its magnitude is phi, and its direction is what? Parallel to this vector. So we can write its unit vector here. That will be 3j minus k cap upon root under 10. Right? So we are omega with us. For getting r, so r is what? R we can write as r of particle, the position of particle, minus position of point where we are, or you can say observer. So it will be particle is at this position and we are at this position. So what is the position vector of that particle with respect to us? That will be particle and that point of our observation. You can say that, and it will come out 3I cap. Just you need to subtract this 5j plus 2k. So what will be v? That is omega cross r. Simply we can use the cross product I cap, j cap, k cap. So it will become 0 root 12 by 10 minus 4 by root 10. That is omega we are writing here. And here position where 3 minus 5 and 2. Using this, you can come to this 4 root 10 I cap minus 3j minus 9k cap easily, right? You can also find it's the magnitude, you know. Okay. So here I want to conclude our the coordinate axes, polar coordinate, velocity relation, acceleration relation, and all. And next, we are going to start the very first topic written in our syllabus, that is Newton's laws of motion. Also, velocity and acceleration relation in polar coordinate is very important for our course. So you know that Newton has written in its Principia, the book where he wrote 3 laws of mechanics in 1687. It was in French, but you can get it on internet also, right? And here he was successful for defining the motion of an object, right? So he was very successful. He was very successfully in defining the motion of object, except two things came. First one, when system moving with a speed comparable to light. So when system starts moving with speed comparable to light, then Newton's laws of motion fail to solve that question. But that's that's not a very big setback for Newton, because any motion on our earth, that can be easily understood from this Newton's laws of motion. Also, what we can observe from our naked eyes, that can be easily be observed and comes into the jurisdictions of laws of motion of Newton. Also, second is the systems of atomic dimension. Systems of atomic dimensions or smaller. Electron, also sometimes photon, proton, right? Where quantum effects are significant. So we have a separate module of quantum mechanics in paper 2, in which we will discuss in detail about this thing. But you need to see something. Up to the Bohr model, when we study the atomic physics, Newton's laws are very applicable and they are able to find. But after the development in quantum mechanics, so the laws of motion fail to explain these observations. But for our system, it is very, very essential for deriving the motions. Okay, leave these things. So we are starting with first, that is Newton's first law. Gradually, you will learn all these things, why Newton's laws are so much helpful. So just I want to quote Newton's first law, and it states that an object at rest remains at rest, or an object in uniform motion continues its motion unless acted by an external agent. And what we call this agent, this is force. This agent is known as force. So if an object is at rest, it will remain at rest. And if the object is in uniform motion, it will continue its motion. If we are not going to change its momentum, if you're not going to act any external force on it, it will continue its state of motion, right? And this is also known as law of inertia, right? Where inertia is what? Inertia is the property of matter to resist change of state of motion. So in lower classes also you have read about inertia, types of inertia, right? Inertia of rest, inertia of motion, inertia of डायरेक्शन. कई बार बोलते हैं ना हम लोग कि हम लोग बस में बैठे हैं, बस जैसे ही ब्रेक लगाती है तो हम लोग आगे की तरफ गिर जाते हैं, राइट? जब भी बाइक पर बैठे, बाइक स्टार्ट होती है, हम पीछे की तरफ टर्न जाते हैं. तो ऑल ऑफ दीज थिंग्स आर बिकॉज ऑफ द inertia, and it is also called law of inertia. For now, inertia is what? It is the property to resist the change in state of motion. Higher the mass, higher will be inertia, right? Higher mass, higher inertia. Okay. So now we can say some significance of this law and why we are stressing so much on these part. All of you have studied Newton's first law from the very beginning of your physics course, I think from class 6 onward. But why we are stressing on these things? Because it will help you to start a question, right, from a concept. It will help you to conclude a question, and it can help you to fetch half or one additional marks in every question, right? So what is the significance of Newton's first law? So Newton's first law is the assertion that Newton's first law is clearly saying that, is asserting that, is the assertion that inertial system exists. We're not going so deep in this. If you see the history, the motion of the object were first studied by the Greeks. Aristotle, you have heard his name in your ethics paper also. He was a great philosopher also. So he was one of the great philosopher of physics also. But he gave some false statement about the motion of object, and that is very popularly known as Aristotle fallacy. So what he stated that if a body is in motion, it will definitely come into rest. But what Galileo said, that's why we will study about Galilean transformation in later chapter also. What Galileo said that it's the inertia of the body, it's its property. So to change the state of the motion. So if a body is moving, it will not come to rest if we have not applied any force on it. So if we apply any force on the object, then it will come into rest. For example, try to understand this. Suppose this is ball and this is rolling on the ground. Let's suppose. And if we absent all the forces, let's suppose friction is absent. What do you think? Will it be in rest anymore? No, it will continue its motion. So a force is also needed to stop the motion, and that was there. Aristotle was wrong and Galileo was right, and later Newton used Galileo's statement to write his first law. And also the concept of inertia was firstly given by the Galileo Galilei. Right, we're not going much into the history of these things. Also, Newton's first law qualitatively defines the force. We have already seen that the external agent, and what the external agent we call it as the force. Okay. Also, it stress on one also thing, that only external force can change the state of motion. So what does it mean? Suppose a block is given here, right? And if we consider 2 points here, both of them will be attracting each other, right? Both of them are in contact with each other. So both of them are exerting contact with each other. But there is no acceleration, no acceleration, no motion, also you can say, because these forces are internal forces, and internal forces cannot change the state of the motion of the object. If we are talking about the point, then it cannot change the motion of the point. If we are talking about the system, then it cannot change the motion of the system as a whole. Okay. Also, Newton's first law gives the concept of what we call isolated body. isolated body, isolated system. You will hear these terms very often in physics. So what is this isolated body? So if we free a body from all interaction, isolated body, you can write free from all interactions. As we know that force arises due to interaction. If there will be no interaction, there is no significance of force. So force is a real thing and it arises due to interaction. If there is no interaction, then no force will act on this body and we can say that it is isolated body. And what we expect for an isolated body, we expect it to move with a what? We want expect to move with a constant velocity or uniform velocity. So is isolated body exist in nature or is just a hypothetical concept? So it do exist in nature. As we know that, uh, let's suppose Coulombic force of attraction, gravitational force of attraction, gravitational and Coulombic. Gravitation and Coulombic force follows what? Follows inverse square law. That is 1 upon r squared. So force decreases according to this. So if we move the body to such a large extent, so we can get an isolated body from here also. Also, force between separated atoms. If we go on the atomic level, it also decreases as 1 by r raised to the power 7. So if force decreases on increasing the distance, so we can get an isolated system if we separate the bodies to a larger extent, right? So these are what we have to study in Newton's first law of motion. Let's quickly jump to the Newton's second law. And the most important law as far as our course is concerned, because according to the Newton's second law, we will write the equations of motion of the object and we will discuss on this later also. Right. So what Newton second law said that force applied an object is proportional to the rate of change in momentum. So always remember that force is related to the change in momentum, not change in velocity. We will see this also, but you should be clear that force changes the momentum. Force does not change the velocity. Maybe sometimes an case come where it changes the velocity also. Most of the time it changes the velocity, but what is force is defined to do? It changes the momentum of the body. And Newton's second law quantitatively defines the force. Mathematically, we can write this equation as this: F is proportional to dp by dt, right? And also where p is basically what? Linear momentum. What is linear momentum? For now, just understand this is mass time its velocity. Okay, mass time its velocity, instantaneous mass and instantaneous velocity at that time. So it is mass time the velocity. We will see this in coming lectures also. We will have a complete discussion on the momentum, significance of momentum. Also, let me ask you a very curious question. If you go on a highway, you will see this symbol. Car, let's suppose 80 kilometer per hour. And here for truck, you see, let's suppose 60 किलोमीटर पर आवर. तो ये भेदभाव किस चीज के लिए है? For car you can go with 80 kilometer per hour, for truck you can go with 60 kilometer per hour. So it's the momentum that's matter, not the velocity. So we will see these things later also, but first concentrate this. So we can write F equals to K dp by dt, and experimentally we got the value of K equals to 1. So we state that F equals to dp by dt here. And this is the basically second law. In mathematical form, in equation, if you put these things, you can write this. And using P equals to mv, we can write this also as F equals to dmv by dt, because P is mv, and it will come out m dv by dt plus v dm by dt. Also, mass can change with time. In case of rocket propulsion, that we will see in coming lectures, this will help us help us. Okay. Also, variable mass system, this will work for the variable mass system where dm by dt is not equals to 0. So we will see two cases. Case 1, here also we can see two cases. When m is constant, if mass is constant, we can say that dm by dt is equals to 0, and its second term becomes 0, and we can write that F equals to what? M dv by dt, and dv by dt is what we call acceleration. So for a constant mass system, we can write that F equals to ma. But you should be careful in writing F equals to ma. This is not the second law, exact second law. This is the second law of motion for a constant mass system only. So you need to say these things, right? And also we can define mass. From this we have defined mass is an intrinsic property. Intrinsic means internal property of a matter. And also it is a measure of resistance of bodies to a change in motion. And we often call it as inertial mass. We have two type of mass that we will discuss, that is inertial mass and gravitational mass. We will learn about the gravitational mass in coming chapter, but first focus on the inertial mass. And basically mass is the property, and using one property we can measure the other property of a matter, right? For example, if we know the mass of one substance, we can know the mass of the other particle also. For example, let's suppose we have m1 here, and m1 is known to us, right? And we have m2 here also, and let's suppose m2, sorry, let's suppose they are interacting with same force. Maybe they are interacting, mutual interaction is there, or we are applying the same force on both of them, and let's suppose it moves with A1 acceleration, it moves with A2 acceleration. Measuring acceleration is very easy. So if we write F force equation for first mass, that equals to ma1, and for the second mass it will become ma2. So from here we can easily write m2 equals to m1 a1 upon a2. So if we know the ratio of their acceleration and mass 1, we can find the second mass, right? Also we can say that we can define the second mass with respect to the first mass. So this is what we understand by the inertial mass. So if we know the resistance property of this object, we can find out the resistance property of this object. For gravitational mass, gravitational force will be there, and we will study about it later. Now here, let's assume the second case. We will not go much deeper in this case. We will also learn about it in later for variable mass system. Let's suppose V is constant. So dV by dt, that is A, is 0. See this. It may be possible a force is acting on a body, but and its acceleration is 0. And here we can write as force is equals to what? V dm by dt. We are not going much detail here. We will cover this later. Okay. So this is all about the second law of motion. Also, again, for constant mass system that we are assuming in this lecture, we can easily write F equals to what? Ma. Also, if we write something in this vector notation, and one of the major reason why we use vector is that it is independent of coordinate. So we can choose any coordinate. It will be independent of the coordinate. But you should make one thing very clear, that this is only defined for a constant mass system, this equation. Okay. And we can write it as A equals to what? dV by dt, and it is d square r by dt. Also we can write it that r double dot. So r double dot is equals to fm, sorry, f by m, and this what we call the equation of motion. This what we call equation of motion for constant mass. So if we know the, in coming examples we will see this also. We are given with this force and we required to find out the equation of motion, because this equation, if we get the r and t, we can get the trajectory also. We can get in which path it's moving, and it is very very useful in central force also. We have a complete section in our syllabus for this. Also, according to the Newton's first law, what was that? If net force is, no net force is acting, then the particle will move in what? Constant velocity. So also here we can deduce first law from second law also. It is, if f net is 0, then what? R double dot will be 0. That means R dot will be constant. And what is this? The body is moving with what? Constant velocity. Also, if f net is constant, we can write in this way also. Then what? dp by dt is 0. And this means what? P is constant. And this is what we call conservation of linear momentum. We will talk about this later, but From here we can deduce these two results also, Newton's first law and the conservation of momentum also. Okay, let's come to the third one. Third one, I think everybody knows the third law. Even a student of 6th class remember this equation only, that every action has its equal and opposite reaction. Right? That's every action has its equal and opposite reaction. That is the law of, I think, karma also. If you follow the Hindu mythology, the law of karma state the same thing. But we are not going so much philosophical. Now let's consider two particles and they are in mutual interaction with each other. So let's suppose this is the particle number 2 and this is the particle number 1, and this is F21, force on 2 due to 1, we know this notation, and this is F12. So according to the Newton's third law, what we can write, F21 is F minus. What does minus signify here? What does minus signify here? That they are opposite, but they are what? Their magnitude are equal, right? So they are equal in what? Equal in magnitude, we can say, and opposite in what? Opposite in direction. So that what it means. So there must be a reaction whenever there is action. Okay. So we need some points worth noting about this third law. Most of you already know this, but also action reaction acts on two different bodies. Right? Action and reaction acts on two different bodies. It cannot apply on a single body. And that's why a very childish question is here. A cart is here and someone is pulling this cart. So cart is applying a force F on that rope, I think, and rope is applying F on the cart. So net force is what? 0. So why this cart is moving? So it is moving because the force acting on the cart is F and the force acting on the rope is also F. But they are not one system. There are two different bodies. One is cart and another is rope. If we consider both of the forces, then it will become internal forces. But we are considering here it as external forces. Okay. We are considering is at external force consideration. For above this one, okay, that will act on two different bodies, so it will behave as an external force. Also, they have same magnitude and opposite direction, we have already discussed, but one thing also, they are of same nature. What is mean by same nature? That suppose this is the table and this block is there, and if we draw the force diagram or what we say free body diagram, we will get a normal reaction and mg. So suppose if we define normal as action number 1, so can we say that mg is its reaction? No. If we go on the what we say, the definition that action and reactions are equal in magnitude and opposite in direction. Here n and mg are satisfying that. What? N equals to mg here, right? N and mg both are equal in magnitude and they are opposite in direction. But they are not action reaction pair, but they are not action reaction pair because they are not of the same nature. This is the gravitational force attracting force, and this is the pushing normal reaction. Okay, so where are the reactions? So if we consider normal as the action, then on this table, this block is also exerting force, normal. And this is the reaction number one. If normal is action number one, then reaction is also normal applied on the table by the block. Okay, so there will be only two member involved in action reaction pair. Okay, so one more thing, if we consider this as action number two, mg, so where is its reaction? So this force is applied by the earth on the block, so block will also apply the same force of the same magnitude but opposite direction, that is mg to the earth. But earth mass is so, if we consider the acceleration of earth, it will come out to be mg upon mass of earth. But mass of earth is so much big, it cannot affect its acceleration anymore. Okay, m is so big, mg is very less, because mg, let's say 10 kg, mass of the object is 10 kg. If g we take 10 meter per second square, then mg will look at 100 newton, but mass of the earth is very big. Okay, also it validates Newton's second law. How it validates second law? Third law validates second law. How it validates? As if it would not be there, there would be no way to know whether acceleration results from a real force or is a merely an artifact of non-inertial frame. That it is third law that defines whether acceleration is either real or just a illusion. Let me clear this. For example, a man, if a man is considering here and block is there, this is number one observer, and second observer is what? Number two observer. But second observer is accelerating in this direction. So because he is accelerating, what he will observe, what one will observe, that block is at rest and a is 0. But what the second observer will observe, he will observe that he is accelerating in this direction, but no force is acting on it, no real interaction is there, but because force is a real quantity. So it's the third law, if we are not getting any reaction, so second law is not valid, and that's what we call Newton's laws are not valid in non-inertial frame. So this is what? Non-inertial frame. And we say that Newton's laws are not valid. We use pseudo force, a mathematical correction factor here, to see this. So also we discuss about the pseudo force here also. So what we use, F apparent, we can write F apparent is equals to F true plus F pseudo. So pseudo force is basically a mathematical correction factor. Pseudo force is what? If we write that pseudo force is what? A mathematical correction factor. So we are not going in detail, and we can write pseudo as F pseudo as minus mass of object into acceleration of observer. because it's just a mere illusion, because the observer himself is moving. So what he will write? He will write that F equals to minus ma, but what the equation observer 1 will write for this? F is 0. So who is right? So observer 1 is right, not 2 is right, because observer 1 is our inertial frame, observer 2 is our non-inertial frame. So don't take so much load about the inertial and non-inertial system here. We will have a separate lecture on this topic also. Okay, just you need to understand the three laws of motion here. And one thing, that we have two types of frame of reference: inertial frame and non-inertial frame. Inertial, observer is moving with uniform velocity, and in non-inertial frame, observer is moving with non-uniform velocity. Okay, so some more points I want to state here. You can also limitations, you can say that. So Newton's laws of motion become inconsistent. We have already discussed it. When particle moves with high speed, that is comparable to light, speed of light. Comparable to speed of light, because the mass scale that we use, mass scale itself become inconsistent. Mass scale itself become inconsistent. We are very familiar with this formula, m equals to v square upon c square, where m naught is what? Rest mass when particle is not moving, and this is what? Speed at